Hi there, students. Here we are, Unit 6, Biology. We are going to talk about evolution and fossils and a lot of really interesting stuff. So, here we go. Now, this is going to be the first blank on your notes. How are fossils formed? Ways that fossils are formed. Now, the first way that fossils are formed is called permineralization. Permineralization. So minerals, you see the word minerals hiding in there? Minerals. So minerals carried by water. So that's going to be somewhere where there is water, like a river or something like that. Now next step would be a natural cast. Natural cast. So flowing water removes bone and tissue. The minerals fill in and mold to the original shape. So you can see here, this is an example. Then next we have a trace fossil. So that's the signs of an organism activity, such as a nest, such as a footprint. So on the test they're going to say, given is what type of fossil is a dinosaur footprint? It's a trace fossil. Now, we have ways of figuring out how old a fossil is. There's two ways. The first way is called relative dating. Now, relative dating shows when a fossil lived. We can get an idea because we can look at the layers of a rock and we can see if it's older or newer than something we already know the date of. Next is radiometric dating. Now this is where they get super duper fancy science stuff, and they use something called isotope. Isotopes, they are they're really fancy, and they are an isotope has the same number of protons but a different number of neutrons. So you remember, anyone that's taking chemistry or anything maybe knows about atoms, and they know about protons and neutrons and electrons. Now, half-life is the amount of time for something to decay into a different element. So let me show you guys an example here of relative dating now. So with relative dating, for Unit 5, I also drew this on the board, something kind of like it. So here's the surface of the Earth, and underneath the Earth there are many, many layers of rock. So let's say an archaeologist found a snail shell in this layer of rock, and he wondered, how old is this? Well, maybe they also found a piece of pottery in this layer, and they happen to know that this pottery is exactly 4,000 years old. 4,000 years old. Maybe they also, so then they would know about this snail. They would know that it is older than 4,000 years old because it's underneath of the pot that is 4,000 years old. That's called relative dating. They didn't give an exact time, but it's relatively, they know it's older than 4,000 years. They're going to compare it to something they already know. So make sure you listen to Mr. Parr. This is, like, seriously, you guys, my absolute favorite Mr. Parr song. I hope you like it too. Now, guess how old the Earth is? It's crazy. The Earth is seriously 4.5 billion years old. Billion with a B. That is super, super, super old. Of course, in that amount of time, it has gone through so many different changes. This thing right here is called the geologic time scale. So the geologic time scale divides the Earth into categories, the Earth's time, and it talks about the different things. So we're going to... Now, an index fossil is when it shows when an organism existed because it uses the rock layers. It estimates the age of the different rock layers. So remember, like I was showing you the snail shell. they can figure out relatively how old something is, and they could use that piece of pottery like I showed you in the other slide. They can use that as an index fossil where they know how old that is so they can compare other things. Now, scientists use the geologic time scale. Remember I said that divides up the very, very long history of the Earth into by major events. So things like dinosaurs, things like people first came on the scene. Those are major events. Now, next up is this weird word called epoch. Epoch. It's the smallest unit of time. And get this, the smallest unit of time is actually several million years. That is crazy. Next is a period. Now, a period is bigger than an epoch because it lasts tens of millions of years. Finally, there's an era. Era is tens to hundreds of millions of years. That is very long amount of time. Eras are very long amount of time. It would be very nice if you watched this video about origins of life. It will help you a lot. So, how in the heck did we even get here? How did we begin? Well, scientists, they're all over the map. Of course, scientists can't really agree on very many things, but there are two things that scientists pretty much agree on. The first thing they agree is that the Earth is billions of years old. No matter what kind of scientists they are, they agree that is a true fact. Next is that they agree that the conditions in the atmosphere today are very, very different from what they were before. So there's two things they agree on. And now we're going to learn about how scientists think that the Earth was even formed in the first place. I mean, how did we even get here? So the most common hypothesis, and remember, hypothesis is a science guess, it's an educated guess, is that the Earth formed over millions of years and debris, so debris is like junk of gas and dust, made a giant nebula, a big cloud, and eventually that cloud cooled down and it was Earth, and continents formed. We have 7 continents on the Earth. Those are land masses. And water began to collect. And that is when the organic molecules developed. Now, this is for your blank. There are 2 organic molecule hypotheses. So here's your first one. It's called the Miller-Urey experiment, and I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. So the Miller-Urey experiment, what they did is they basically made this glass container, and inside of it they basically had they were able to simulate lightning, lightning in a jar. And the way that they got this lightning to work is that they turned gases, this is a gas, and a water into organic compounds. That suggests that electrical energy sparked the creation of life. So the hypothesis about electric energy is the Miller-Urey experiment. The other one is the meteorite hypothesis. That's where a meteorite, a rock from space, basically, landed on Earth, and it probably had some kind of organic molecules inside of it, and those organic molecules eventually became life, people, animals. Now, another one is called, suggests that RNA was the first storage of genetic material rather than DNA. Remember, it starts with DNA to RNA to proteins. Remember that? So they're saying it went from RNA. Now, Okay, so the earliest form of life on Earth was called cyanobacteria. I don't have this on your notes, but you should write it down somewhere on your paper. Cyanobacteria are the earliest forms of life. Write that down, that exact thing right that I just told you. Cyanobacteria, earliest forms of life. Now, what was important about them is that they can carry out photosynthesis. Remember photosynthesis? That photosynthesis is taking in carbon dioxide, giving out oxygen. So that is what was able to, that's why there was oxygen on the earth, people believe. Now, around 1.5 billion years ago, eukaryotes, so remember what a eukaryote is. Oopsies. So a eukaryote is a cell that has a nucleus and whatnot, may have formed from something called endosymbiosis. So you guys, when you see the word endo, I want you to think inside. Inside. When you see the word symbiosis, I want you to think work together. So on your notes where it says in your own words what is endosymbiosis, I want you to write endo equals inside, symbiosis equals work together. So basically one cell took in another cell, and that is how we got eukaryotes. Okay, now multicellular life appeared during the Paleozoic era. So that's what you guys are going to write there. What happened in each era on your notes? Paleozoic, multicellular life appeared. When I say multicellular life, it means something that's made of more than one cell. So that's basically a lot of stuff, right? Remember, we are made of trillions of cells. Now, the next thing is the Cambrian explosion. So when you see that word explosion, it is when there is a whole bunch of new animals. Cambrian explosion. Tons of animals. But, we're not talking about little fuzzy poodles and things like that. We're talking about mostly fish, things in the sea. We're also talking lizards, things like that. Now, when we get our fossil fuels, which is what your car runs on, how your car is able to run, that is actually the decaying matter from that long ago. So from, millions and millions and millions of years ago is what our cars basically run on dead dinosaurs, is what I'm trying to say. So next is the Mesozoic era. Now, this is the age of reptiles. So what happened in each era? Mesozoic, the age of reptiles. Now, dinosaurs, plants, birds, there's tons of new animals. And here's the crazy thing, is they all died, right? There's no dinosaurs now. They all died because there was a mass extinction. The best hypothesis is that there was maybe a gigantic meteorite, so a big giant rock from space, landed on the earth and created such a commotion that probably there was so much dust in the atmosphere that sunlight was prevented from entering. And if there's no sunlight, there's no what? What'd you just say? Oxygen? You're right. There was no oxygen. Next up, then, we have the Cenozoic era. Now, this is recent life, and it is known as the Age of Mammals. So the Age of Mammals in the Cenozoic era. Now, this is This is going to be egg-laying mammals, also placental mammals. So when it says placental, meaning they carry their live young. And also, hey, there we are, Homo sapiens. That's us, people. So we've only been around for about 100,000 years. So when you're talking about millions of years, then you're talking about 100,000, that is not very long. Just like millions of dollars is a whole lot more than $100,000. So we have not been on the scene for very long. So this is going to be, the next thing I'm going to write right now is going to be your secret password of the day. So your secret password is going to be, what era did the dinosaurs live in? What era did the dinosaurs live in? I'm just going to write dino. That's what you have to write me. Don't write me the question, write me the answer. All right, everyone, I'll see you soon. Hope you have a good day. Bye.